What if I told you that the richest investor in history made 96% of his wealth after his 65th birthday? Not because he got smarter with age, not because he found a secret formula, but because of one thing, and one simple, almost embarrassingly obvious thing, that most people completely overlook their entire lives. And what if I told you that a janitor who never earned more than $11 an hour died with $8 million in the bank, while a Harvard-educated Wall Street executive who made millions a year filed for bankruptcy? Same country, same economy, same stock market, completely different outcomes. This isn't a story about spreadsheets or stock picks. This is a story about behavior, the invisible psychological forces that quietly determine whether you build wealth or destroy it, no matter how smart you are. Welcome to The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. The janitor and the executive, Ronald Read, was a janitor in Vermont his whole life. He drove a used car, wore second-hand clothes, fixed things with safety pins, and lived in the same small house for decades. When he died in 2014 at 92, people expected a modest estate. Instead, they discovered he had quietly accumulated $8 million and donated most of it to his local library and hospital. Nobody saw it coming, because nobody was watching. Ronald Read didn't want anyone to watch. Now meet Richard Fosconi, Harvard MBA Vice Chairman of Merrill Lynch. So successful, he retired in his 40s to pursue philanthropy. During the exact same economic period, he borrowed heavily, expanded his 18,000 square foot Connecticut mansion, took on enormous debt, and when 2008 hit, he couldn't make his mortgage payments. Bankruptcy, foreclosure, everything gone. Two men, opposite outcomes. What's the difference? Morgan Housel's answer is simple and devastating. Doing well with money has almost nothing to do with how smart you are. It has everything to do with how you behave. Intelligence can be neutralized by ego. Education can be overridden by emotion. The quiet discipline of someone like Ronald Read can silently outperform decades of brilliance. Luck, risk, and the things we can't control. In 1968, a 13-year-old named Bill Gates attended Lakeside School in Seattle. Lakeside was one of the only schools on the entire planet with a computer terminal at the time. Not one of the best, one of the only ones. Bill Gates was brilliant, absolutely, but he was also born in the right decade, in the right city, at the right school, at the exact moment in history when that access was transformative. That's luck, and it matters enormously. His childhood friend Kent Evans was equally brilliant, equally driven. He died in a mountaineering accident before graduating. Same starting line, completely different finish. When judging success, leave room for luck. When judging failure, leave room for risk. The world is far more random than we want to admit. We love believing success is purely earned and failure is purely deserved. But reality doesn't care about our narratives. The person who acknowledges luck stays grounded. The person who credits everything to their own genius takes on more risk than they should. And eventually, the randomness catches up. The compounding secret. Here's a quiz. Warren Buffett's net worth is around $130 billion. How much of that did he earn before age 65? Half? A third? The answer? Less than 4%. He started investing at age 11. He's been at it for over 80 years. His returns aren't dramatically better than other great investors. His real superpower is time. He gave compounding a runway that almost no one else has ever matched. Here's the number that will rearrange your brain. If Buffett had started investing at 25 and retired at 65, a totally normal investing lifespan, his net worth today would be around $11.9 million. Still wealthy. But not one of the richest humans who ever lived. The difference between $11.9 million and $130 billion isn't genius. It's decades. Good investing is not about earning the highest returns. It's about earning consistently good returns for a very, very long time. A 12% return for 30 years crushes a 20% return for 10. Every time, and yet every financial ad, every hot tip promises the highest return right now. The whole media machine is optimized to make you do the one thing that destroys wealth. Chase, react, move fast. When the only strategy that's ever reliably built generational wealth is be patient, stay in, and wait. The trap called enough. In 2008, two hedge fund managers already worth hundreds of millions bet everything on complex financial instruments, chasing even larger returns. They weren't desperate. They had more money than they could spend in several lifetimes, and they lost nearly all of it. Why would someone risk what they have and need for what they don't have and don't need? It's a trap Housel calls the never enough problem, fueled by social comparison. There is always someone richer, always a bigger house on the next street, always a faster car in the next lane. The moment you hit your goal, the goalpost moves because you're comparing yourself to whoever is ahead. And that person is always there. Knowing when you have enough is one of the rarest and most powerful financial skills that exists. It keeps you from blowing up everything you've built, chasing the next 10%. Here's a question worth writing down. What would ruin your life if you lost it? Now stop betting that thing on things you don't actually need. Wealth is invisible. Morgan Housel once worked as a valet at a luxury hotel in Los Angeles. Night after night, Ferraris and Lamborghinis rolled in, and one night he noticed something. Nobody was looking at the drivers. Every single person was staring at the cars. The man behind the wheel was invisible. We buy expensive things because we think they'll make people admire us, but what actually happens, people see the object and think, I want that. The admiration you were buying was never actually for sale. Real wealth is invisible. It's the car not purchased, the vacation not taken, the investment quietly growing. Studies consistently show that a large portion of American millionaires drive ordinary cars, live in average neighborhoods, and spend modestly. They don't look wealthy because they've learned the lesson most people spend their lives missing. Spending money to look wealthy is often the single biggest obstacle to actually becoming wealthy. The flashy lifestyle and real wealth are usually mutually exclusive. You get to pick one. Save for what you can't predict. Most financial advice gives you a list of things to save for a house, retirement, an emergency fund. All reasonable, but Housel cuts deeper. Save for things you cannot possibly predict. 10 years ago, could you have mapped exactly where you'd be today? Every job change, health scare, global shock. Did anyone put worldwide pandemic shuts everything down for 2 years in their 2019 financial plan? The highest form of wealth is waking up every morning and saying, I can do whatever I want today. That freedom doesn't come from a high salary, it comes from options, and options come from savings that aren't earmarked for anything specific. A cushion that exists purely to absorb the unpredictable. Savings without a goal buys you flexibility. Flexibility keeps you calm. Calm leads to better decisions. And better decisions, compounded over decades, become something extraordinary. The margin of safety. Engineers designing bridges don't build to hold exactly the expected weight. They build to hold 3 or 4 times that. That buffer is called the margin of safety. Your finances need the same architecture. Don't invest every dollar. Don't take on maximum debt. Don't plan assuming everything goes right. Plan for disruption, because disruption always comes. The people who survived 2008, COVID, the dot-com crash, they weren't luckier. They had slack in their systems. A margin of safety isn't fear, it's engineering. Build in more resilience than you think you need, because reality will eventually test it. What actually matters? Here's what nobody teaches in school. You don't need to predict the market. You don't need a finance degree, a Bloomberg terminal, or a hot stock tip. You need patience to let time do its work, humility to know luck plays a role, enough to stop chasing when you've already won. A margin of safety because life is unpredictable, and consistency because small good decisions, repeated over years, change everything. Ronald Read had no credentials. He had time, discipline, and zero interest in impressing anyone. He quietly built $8 million while the world wasn't watching. That's the psychology of money. Not the most sophisticated strategy, the most sustainable one. Read the book. And until next time, spend less than you earn, invest the difference, and be patient.